We are returning to the Diarmuid Connolly story this morning, though, and Kieran Donaghy is with us. How are you getting on, Kieran?
Good on. How are you, man?
All good, all good. Our non-Dublin supporters, non-Dublin players breathing a sigh of relief this morning?
Yeah, of course, that we don't have to worry about the Maestro anymore. It's an ease to everybody that's not a Dublin fan, I would say, this morning.
Like we were chatting with Paul Kern a little bit earlier on, and he's very surprised that this news has come now. Are you the same? Are you in that camp, or did you see this coming?
I wouldn't be really surprised, really, to be honest, with anything that happens kind of on Diarmuid's side with Dublin. He's always kind of shocked us, whether he stepped away, whether he's been... there's been issues before where he's been off the panel, on the panel. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? So nothing would surprise me really with him on that side of things. But in regards to the footballing ability, nothing surprises us there either when he's playing, because he can do anything. He's multi-talented. He's one of these generational type players, but also he's a generational type athlete. One of many of the Dublin guys that could really play anywhere from 15 probably back to 5. You could literally see Connolly with any one of those numbers on his back and be equally as devastating as a player on the pitch. Probably ideally as centre forward, where I thought he was at his best, but midfield, full forward. He's played corner forward, wing forward. And I'm sure if you horsed him in at centre back, he'd be an absolute nightmare for the opposition too. So an amazing talent, really, considering a player of that ability and knowing that he could actually play in any one of those positions and dominate a game explains to you kind of how much of a quality footballer this guy is. And you couple that with the athletic ability and his frame and his size and his big game temperament. You were dealing with a tough animal to stop on a big day.
How much of a concern was he on any given day taking on the Dubs?
Look, I suppose when it came to the tail end of my career, he was one of many, but he was always top of the list for guys to try and watch out for. And obviously, you're putting one of your best defenders on him. But of course, he's a thorn in his side because of his raw power and speed, combined with being able to kick off either leg, combined with being fantastic in the air, combined with being able to pick off passes that most other humans can't see, and having a bit of an edge and having a bit of I liked the bit of an edge he had. I liked that side of him on the pitch, because he was never going to back down. You weren't going to push him around the place. And, he fitted well into that Dublin team. There had a lot of fellas at the back like that, but he was probably the main guy in the forwards that would set the tone with body language and not taking a backward step. And he did that his whole career. And he was a joy to watch on any given day, bar the times he beat us when he was a pain to watch.
And also as well, I guess it's just the whole emotional lift that he would give if he was coming on as a sub or with a big moment. I mean, you would have felt the brunt of the hill being on your back, but Diarmuid Connolly felt the exact opposite. The adulation that you heard coming from that sea of blue whenever he did anything in Croke Park.
Yeah, precisely. He was always in the news, and that's what I meant by my first point earlier, that I wouldn't be surprised when he stepped away, because he was kind of always in the news in the lead up to the game, whether is he going to be on the squad, is he left the squad, is he going to be on the team, is he going to be a sub? He was always that guy, and he was the pantomime villain, which I know well, playing against Dublin, playing in front of the hill. I was that to them, but he was certainly the pantomime villain for all the other fans, and I think he loved that. And he also, of course, he loved being adored by those in the hill. And why wouldn't he be adored by those in the hill? He was Dublin through and through. He was a bio, and not only was he that, but he could back it up with all the skills of the game, kick fantastic points, and just be a general powerhouse around the pitch. So of course they loved him. And when you look at his resume, it's second to none. He's 6 All-Ireland medals. I can't believe he only has 2 All-Stars. That's shocking to me for how good of a footballer he is. So maybe that other side to him, I don't know the guy off the pitch, but maybe that other side to being in the news all the time, maybe it might have cost him a few All-Stars. But it's crazy to think a player that was at the top of his game since 2011, winning All-Irelands, has only 2 All-Stars to show for it. No, look, the strength of that Dublin team and the amount of All-Stars they were getting may have something to do with it as well. But I think he was always the talking point, and his football always did the talking when it had to, which is the most important thing.
Kieran, we spoke to you, I think it was last year after Diarmuid made his return to the Dublin fold, but you said you compared him to LeBron James, and say it's like they've signed a free agent and they've got LeBron James back and they're a step away from the championship. Has Diarmuid Connolly been the LeBron James of Gaelic games for the past 5 or 10 years?
No, I don't think he's the LeBron James, but he's what I meant by that was just the whole free agency kind of signing. But he's more of a kind of like Cantona figure. He's more of that kind of abrasive, collar up if he could wear it up, in your face, has all the skill, has all the touches. Is a bit of a renegade away from the white lines, but always delivers when counts. And I think if you look at Cantona's resume and Connolly's resume, when they were needed most in big games, they always delivered. And that's the one thing he'll always have, is that he always delivered when it counted, and all the other stuff will be forgotten about. What will be remembered when he's playing, when people think of him in 20 or 30 years, is those renegade runs down the pitch, crashing into fellas, kicking points, swiveling on the outside of the boot, off either boot, inside of the boot, off either boot. If you look at that kind of skill package, the dummy solos, just the power, the strength of him, he was a handful. There's no back going out the night before a game, including the very best that went toe-to-toe with him and may have levelled out with him, the likes of Lee Keegan. But there was none of them sitting down the night before. There's none of them that will honestly tell you that they couldn't wait to go toe-to-toe with him. There'd always be that level of kind of, I really have to be on the top of my game. There'd be fierce trepidation there if you were going in playing a guy like that, because at any minute he can do something special that will win a game for the team you're playing against.
You mentioned the Cantona comparison there, and Cantona had moments like the chip in off the post and turning around slowly to face the whole crowd. Well, like we were speaking this morning about different Diarmuid Connolly moments. That I guess there was the club final in 2014. I think there was the Donegal game in 2014 as well. Yeah. The Tyrone quarterfinal in 2011. What? It's probably hard when you're standing on the pitch with him to stand back and observe and enjoy him. But what are your highlights of Diarmuid Connolly's career?
I like probably the two, like the pass last year against Kerry was, I'm not sure it was meant for Kilkenny. It might have been meant for Mannion. I think it was coming out inside him, but it doesn't matter who it was meant for, because it was going to fall into either of their laps. Kilkenny caught it up here. Mannion would have caught it into his chest. But just at that stage of the game, I think Dublin might have been up a point or 2 points, and just to see the vision of it and to be able to see it and then be able to execute it. And I think I saw a pass in the club championship this year too, in Parnell Park, where he played an absolute beauty of a ball over the top that led to a goal. So he always had that eye for the pass, but he backed, and he has natural talents. But don't get me wrong, Diarmuid Connolly was the young guy that was down the pitch kicking non-stop. You can say natural ability, and people used to say that, including me, about the Gooch and these type of kind of once-off classic players. And yeah, it's natural, and yeah, they're gifted and all that, but these guys put in more work than anybody else on a football pitch, and that's the bottom dollar when it comes to those skills. But I would say that pass, and maybe his point off of, I think it was 16 against us on the left leg when they were a point up, the 74th minute, there was a minute to go. If that was me coming through, I wouldn't be taking that kick anyway, but I would have said, look, we're a point up. I'm not going to kick this from 40 yards on my left leg, going away from goals into the hill, which is the tougher end maybe to kick into, in case I drop it short and give Kerry a chance to come down and equalise in the last minute. Never crossed his mind, never broke stride, came onto it and kicked a wonder score into the hill to give them the 2 points, and probably saw them out of that game in what was a titanic game in those probably 2 or 3 games that we played against Dublin. They were all titanic battles, 11, 13 and 16, and that point was a crucial one, as much as kind of Alan Brogan's was against us in 15. So they were probably 2 of the scores and moments that catch up. But yeah, even that Donegal game you were talking about, Dublin had a nightmare that day in the second half, but Connolly throughout was unbelievable, carrying the fight to them until it was gone. So yeah, he's those two, I would say, the pass last year against Kerry in the final, and he's gone out on top. So as I said earlier, it doesn't surprise me. He's done it all. He won't have to live with the headaches of the badgering off the pitch anymore. He'll be able to go in and absolutely excel at club level for the next. He's 33. He could play, I'd say, 7 years at club. He's in phenomenal shape. I don't see him not playing club football. I don't see Vincent's not being able to use him. You know, bar injury is the only reason I don't see Connolly going on. And obviously his will to want to go on and do more for Vincent's and win more Club All-Irelands and county titles or whatever. That'll be the only thing that'll stop him going on playing many more years for his club.
Does this bring Dublin back to the pack ever so slightly?
Oh, does it bring him back to the pack?
Like just a tad back. Obviously they're well ahead of the pack, but I'm just saying, is it a setback?
Look, you're losing him. So look, it is a bit of a setback for them. But I don't think this Dublin team, you know, look, they've got Con Callahan that's ready to take on the Connolly torch for the next, you know, 10 or 15 years, like Clifford took it off Gooch a few years ago. It's not, you know, the jersey's always bigger than you, and he will be a loss to this Dublin team, but this Dublin team are in such a place with the players they have that I don't think, you know, it'll have too much of an effect on them. But in saying that, when the game's in the melting pot and there's 10 minutes to go and you're bringing on a player and you're thinking, geez, I could be bringing on Diarmuid Connolly, of course you probably prefer to bring him on. So he may be a loss to them in that regard. But, you know, I think this Dublin machine rolls on no matter who retires, whether it's a Bernard Brogan, whoever, them wheels keep on churning forward, and they're producing great athletes and great players in underage teams, and they'll be right there. So I don't think it affects them overly. But, you know, if they lose a game by a point this year, of course, it's going to be looked back and going, geez, if they Connolly with 15 minutes to go, what could have happened? So that's where I probably see that line.
Yeah, that's it's going to be very interesting to see what does happen. Like, I mean, the gap is still there. Kieran, great stuff this morning. We'll chat to you in another time.
Yeah, perfect. No hassle.